Hello, everyone. Once again, this is Keith Hannigan from the Atlanta Film Society and the Atlanta Film Festival, and I am here with another edition of Alumni Spotlight, Atlanta Film Festival Alumni Spotlight. And for today, my guest is from the Atlanta Film Festival 2023. Her film, Jessilla, which I just watched last night for the very first time and had no idea what the movie was about. And we're going to get into this. So I'm going to in a second. So why don't I do this right now, folks? I'm going to be interviewing somebody with a film that I want y'all to see before you watch this interview. So if you haven't seen the film, it's named Jessilla. Find it, watch it, then come back to this because this conversation is going to have spoilers, folks. I'm sorry, it's going to be about the film, and I don't want to ruin it for anyone. Even though if I just, Emily, if I looked at the IMDb log line, I would have known what I was getting into, but that's a whole different animal.
Yeah.
Um, but I just really would appreciate it if you would do that for me. And second, I'm going to be very vulnerable in this interview. I probably will get a little emotional. um, I'm a powder keg of emotion, folks. And if it comes out, it comes out, but it's going to be true. It's going to be genuine. It's going to be real. And this is why we do what we do, isn't it? So, with that, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, I give to you the director of the Atlanta Film Festival 2023 Best Documentary Feature Special Jury Mention, Emily Sheskin. Emily, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me.
Well, thank you for saying yes. So, okay, we're gonna get right into it. We're just gonna come out of we're kind of like your teaser in the film where you're just like, oh, what am I getting into here?
Mhm.
I really want to get into this. So I watched Jess Hill last night, and in the world of professional wrestling, which is a world I've been fascinated in since I was a little kid, there's a term called a mark. What a mark is basically it's taken from the Carney world of saying, oh, that's who I want. That's who I'm gonna go after. Think of it in other words as a prime demographic. That's who you're going after specifically. I say all that to say this. Emily, I am a mark for this film. I had an idea it was about a female boxer. That's all I really knew. Forgive me, I did marketing for it 2 years ago, and we do 300 films. So if I forgot, I forgot. But I'm glad I forgot. Uh, because my question is the same question my wife had after she called me and I was sobbing.
Mhm.
We both thought, what was the filmmaker feeling when she found out that her subject in this film, Jessalyn Silva, and even Pedro Silva, her father. Emily, where were you when you found out she was sick?
So, uh, we've obviously filmed over quite a long period of time. We started when she was 10, and when she was 15, the way we did this film is I had a general idea of what I wanted to make. I love the Up series. I wanted to make something that was like an Up series for an Olympian. Obviously, with kids, they, grow up so fast. We were not present for like every day, but what we did was we structured our shoot in the year around an interview, competition moments, and then we would always have sort of these like lifestyle shoots that we weren't sure what was going to happen. And I remember it was June and then July, and we had on the calendar a sort of like summertime, school's out. I like wanted Pedro to go back to school shopping with Jess like really bad, or just some scene like that. Or even just like a summer scene of her playing basketball with her brother, whatever it was. And Pedro kept telling me, he's like, are you okay if like we push it? Like Jess just isn't feeling well. And I was like, oh, absolutely. Like we want her. Yeah, no, we don't want to like show up if she's not feeling well. Like, no, definitely. Yeah, just, let us know when she's feeling better because obviously you don't think it's brain cancer. And Pedro and I became quite good friends during the filming of this movie, and so he was calling me and being like, "Hey, she's still not feeling well. She's getting these headaches." He's like, "Have you ever gotten a headache that made you throw up?" And I have migraines, and I was like, "Yeah." I was like, "I have migraines, and that's happened." I was like, "I'm sure a doctor will be able to kind of talk about that, but it's probably migraines. Like it's probably nothing." And I remember he called me after they saw the eye doctor, and he said the eye doctor just saw something sort of in the back of Jesselyn's head. He's telling me to go to the emergency room. They think it's a tumor. And I was like, okay, keep me posted, just. And this was not like, oh, we're trying to organize a film shoot. This is like two friends talking about what's happening now. And I think in some ways, like, the guise of like having a shoot was facilitating that conversation, but I also think that Pedro needed someone to talk to that wasn't his immediate family, because he was like, if I tell my mom, like, she's going to freak out. And he was trying really hard to stay measured. And my fiance works, he works in healthcare data basically. And I was really worried. And I had said to him, they think that she may have a tumor, like, I don't know anything about this. And he was like, we'll just hope it's not a glioblastoma. And I was like, what's that? And he kind of talked about how this was one of the most aggressive and difficult forms of cancer to treat. And I had a moment, like, probably 3 days later, where Pedro called me and he told me that it was a glioblastoma. And I just remember not it was like an out of body experience. I just remember feeling shocked, numb, upset, not wanting to cry. I also didn't want to frighten Pedro because, like, I'm getting this secondhand. Like, I don't know. Like, I don't know if that's what the doctor said or if that's something he heard in passing. And he seemed to be, worried, but not devastated. And I was devastated. And then he was devastated. And then what happened was a weeks of sort of just like kind of keeping in touch and like kind of crying on the phone to each other, to be frank. Um, and at this point, the filmmaker is like, the film I made is dead. It doesn't matter. She's not going to go to the Olympics. What matters is her health and having hope and seeing if we can fight this, beat this, whatever it is, and also being as supportive as I can for this family who at this point, I love, I care about deeply. And I was actually very caught off guard, and because Pedro said, Jesselyn is asking me when you're going to come film again. And I was, to be frank, I was like gobsmacked. I didn't know really how to respond. And I just remember saying to Pedro, well, how do you feel about that? And his response, I'll never forget. He said, things are changing really fast for Jess, and you guys have been part of her normal. And I don't want her to feel like a cancer kid. So I want to do what's going to make her feel normal. And I I said, oh, okay, we'll do what we always did, which was we every year it was important for me that like Jess still wanted to make this movie because, again, we started filming when she was 10. She was 15 when this happened. That's a very sensitive time in a kid's life. And I did not want to feel like I was encroaching or was unwelcome. She wanted at the beginning, to tell the story about her going to the Olympics. It was something she was really enthusiastic about. So every year I wanted to make sure, are you still enthusiastic about this? And when we got on the phone, I said, your dad says that you were asking when we were going to come film. I said, frankly, obviously the movie has changed. I think we're not focused on the Olympics anymore. We're focused on seeing how you can get better and fight this. And so, can you tell me, like, what are your feelings? Like, what do you want to film? Like, where do you see the movie going? And you even hear me, I think, ask her this in the film. And she said, what is basically our third act, which was that she wanted to show people it was important to be brave in the face of hard things and inspire others, which was something she's always wanted to do. And so it became sort of my job to translate that and make this film, in many ways, I say now it's about her life and legacy.
So it's funny because I thought about this. I told you this before we started talking. I'll just tell everybody. When I was younger, I played sports and I had numerous concussions. And if you
Mm,
have a concussion, you're in a haze for a few days afterwards because you just sustained a brain injury. And I'm not saying I'm saying I feel like I've been in a haze since I've watched this film because, like I said, I haven't told you this. I am a father of a 2.5 going on 3 year old boy, and his mom's very active in his life. I'm happily married with a
mm,
wonderful, and she's a wonderful mother, but I'm the one I work from home.
mm,
So it's been 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, me and this boy.
mm.
So the relationship, I don't like your movie. I don't love your movie. I adore your movie. I
Thank
have
you.
a relate. No, thank you, and we'll thank you in a little bit too. But thank you. I adore this because I have a relationship with it.
Hmm.
Um, and it's one of those wonderful things about we live in a world of short form content where you're getting a minute long clip and you understand longer narratives. You develop a love and just you're disconnecting. You're part of their world, no longer part of your world. You're part of their world. I mean, think about when you find out your favorite character from a TV show gets killed. Showing the show completely is off the rails for you in a little way, and you're screaming, no, no, no. And the moment I saw her with the shaved head yesterday, I paused my computer and said, no, no, no.
Mm.
So that's the thing that really, I've done 5 of these interviews and this first time I really cried. Um, that was the thing that landed so heavy for me was going, I only have this short 90-minute relationship with this little girl, and you're rooting. It's such a great metaphor. You're rooting for this girl the entire time. And now that's kicked up, and you see her lose. You see her go, okay. And it was funny too, because up until that point, if you're watching, her toughest challenge was Coach Raj.
Yeah.
Like Coach Raj sucked. And you could, and I love some of the shots you got where you just see almost like this look in her eye, like, do I really want to do this anymore?
Hmm.
And you talk about being from 10 to 15. God, if you have kids, folks, they're all over the map. They're into, like, if you're buying them 13 different instruments, you're buying them 13 different types of balls because of the fact they're just all over the map.
Hmm.
And this girl's at the age where it's like, okay, do I love this? Yes, I do. And then you find out you're like, okay, and she thinks she has it in bag and she doesn't. And I'm ruining the movie for those who haven't seen it. Again, you should have
No.
hit pause. You should have hit
It's
pause when I
still, you
told
know
you.
what? It's still, I don't think it actually ruins the movie because you just love her so much
Me
that you'll
too.
watch it anyway. And
And
that's
that's why I
her.
say you
That's
have a
not
relationship.
me. That's her.
Well, you captured it.
Thank you.
And we will get to well I well why don't we transition there right now? What so this was a short for you first,
Yeah.
correct? Okay. So what turned how did you find Pedro and Jesselyn?
So I wanted to do something on a woman in a combat sport. It was the era of Dana White saying he'd never let women fight in the UFC, and then Ronda Rousey showed up and became this uber megastar. And women now have divisions in the UFC. And I was thinking about how hard, I mean, these athletes that they signed didn't just come from nowhere. These are women who did this without any hope of making, superstar money, and they did it because they loved it. And I thought, like, what is that experience? Who are these people? And I actually didn't intend to do the film on a child. I had done interviews with a variety of adult female fighters, but then I saw Jesselyn being held up. There's a shot in the film of it, by her coach Dawn with like a little belt. And I was like, who is this kid? And I wrote to the lady who wrote the article. I asked to be put in touch with, parent or guardian, whoever I could talk to. And I wrote them an email being like, hey, I'm a documentary filmmaker. I would just love to talk to you, potentially make a film, And I sent it and I heard nothing for months. And then out of nowhere, Pedro was just like, hey, I like prayed on it. Let's do it. And I was kind of like, oh, that's not how this works. Maybe we could just meet in person and chat. And part of that was like, I always kind of like cast in some ways, but I wanted to make sure, this wasn't a helicopter parent, that this wasn't someone trying to like live out their dreams through a kid. And I'll never forget it. I showed up, they were in a gym. They were going between two gyms, their New Jersey gym and a gym in New York with a trainer, Hez. And Jess is just, based in New York. So it's easy to meet them. And Jess is just like on the bag, push-ups, doing like a circuit. And Pedro sees me. He's like, oh, hey, what's up? Like, I'm Pedro. Like, we emailed. And she's just like, ah. And then she looks over and she's like, Poppy, how many rounds do I've left? He's like, I don't know. And I was like, oh, this poor man is along for the ride. This is not, it was so evident from the second we spoke that this was someone who was trying so hard to support his daughter in a way that was at times uncomfortable for him because yes, it is a dangerous sport and he could see where this was going and even just the disappointment of win, lose, all of that. And so I was like, oh, they're amazing. And then, we talked for months about, I remember telling him, like, I've never done anything on a young person before. I was like, I am not going to do this unless we can make this a good experience for her. How could you handle attention that comes and goes very fast? Our best case scenario was that we get in the New York Times, which we ended up getting into. But with that comes a lot of eyes and criticism. Can you handle that? If people are saying that it's barbaric, you're letting your daughter do this and putting all these judgments, is that going to affect you negatively? Then let's not do it if it will. And so we had conversations like that. I think every time I saw them, I'd see them like once every couple of weeks, and I would bring up a new question that I thought of that I was like, I don't want to be responsible for this trauma to another person, family that I'm starting to really love. And every time Pedro was like, I thought about it. Thank you, let's do it. And so by the time we actually stepped on to a set, which was November of 2016, there had been a level of trust built up and a relationship because he saw that like I genuinely cared about both him and his daughter. I did not want to put them at risk, push them into something that was going to be poison for them. And so we had that relationship. And then obviously with our feature, when I finished the short, she was so amazing. And she kept being like, I'm going to the 2024 Olympics. And it was one of those things where like kids say stuff and I rarely believe them, but I believed her. And so I was kind of like, would you maybe want us to like follow you? And she was like, yeah, sure, why not? And then it was harder to get Pedro on board. He's like, yeah, that's fine, but like, I don't want to be in it. And I said to him straight up, I was like, I know you don't love being on camera. I was like, but I think it's really weird to do a film about a kid without her parent. I was like, so I completely respect if you don't want to do this, but then we've made a great short and we'll say goodbye here kind of thing. And then he ultimately, of course, said yes because of her and her enthusiasm. And here we are. And for the first time, I have cried many times in the process of making this film, and I still have moments of grief and things that come up. Um, but I had an experience in October, and Pedro and I were texting because I told him I was at this American Film Showcase with all of these amazing directors, and many of them have worked with very famous people. And I stood up and I talked about my project, and I texted Pedro and I was saying that it was a really proud moment for me. And I said, all these people worked with celebrities, but the fact that I got to work with you guys it was priceless. I wouldn't change that for the world. And I feel like I was the luckiest filmmaker in the room. And for the first time, he said, I'm really glad that we did the film together. And I was like sobbing in LAX because it meant so much, because I knew he didn't want to do it originally and he kind of did it for her.
And Pedro's such, and I, for lack of a better word, character.
Yeah.
He's fantastic character for this. I mean, his, I get, and I'm a 46-year-old man, well, like I said, with a 2.5-year-old kid. So that means for 44 years, I was hanging on this earth solo, and I didn't understand what this level of love consists of.
Mhm.
But when you do have a child, you look at the child and you go, okay, most important thing I'm ever gonna do.
Yeah.
And that's perfectly fine with me.
Hmm.
And so as I'm watching this, I'm like, oh my God, this is, and he was so relatable for me, but also you're like, it's a parent's dream. It's a parent's dream, and you know that you're gonna be struggling because what you're doing is in to support. But I love the fact that you just said he wasn't some of the parents, and I'm down in Georgia, folks, and I have kids. I have a stepson who played baseball, and some of the parents down here, it's their dream, not their
Yeah.
child's dream, and we know that story all too well, all throughout society. So for you to say, "Dad, you're coming with, and you're gonna help," and the dad's like, "Yeah, I okay, let's go,"
Yeah.
and it wasn't like my profession. What I do professionally is a means to support my daughter is such is such a selfless, amazing example for and I think both of them
I
throughout this
also
journey.
just want to say he had her when I think he was like 21. Pedro and I are the same age. We were both 1984 babies. And
Okay.
so when I met him in 2016, she was 10. So I don't know, do the math. I can't do it.
So he's 31 years old, and I
Yeah,
will tell you,
I was
I
not.
think
Yeah. I think about this now too. He always talks about how his kids were the best thing that ever happened to him, and he changed his life for his kids. He talks about it a little in the movie that he looks at how he grew up and he did the opposite. And a lot of that was literally just being present. It isn't an indictment on his single mom at all. She like was breaking her back to have the funds to raise her sons. But what he's talking about is being able to give his kids time. And I
yeah,
always thought that was such a wise thing for someone who I mean, think about it, a 21-year-old suddenly saying, the best thing I can give my kids is my presence. That's,
unprecedented.
yeah,
Unprecedented. Oh my God. There's parents my age that can't give their kids time.
yeah,
And I think it was Michael Keaton I saw on the Hollywood Roundtable once saying, if one piece of advice, spend time with your kids, you won't regret it a day in your life. And he
yes.
walked away so he could spend time with his kids and things of
Mhm.
that nature. So seeing something like this is very profound, obviously. I do want to ask before two questions, but first one, was there ever a conversation about the mom being involved in this project?
Yeah, so at the beginning, Pedro made it very clear that he was a single parent, that he has a relationship, like a co-parent kind of situation with her mom. But kind of like she's off limits. And I was like, That's fine. I mean, I was like, I'm not really making a film about her. I'm making a film about the two of you. And I think, I was when I we joked at one point that we were going to call the film Good Dads because there's so many moments about where good men who are fathers are present in their kids' lives through the sport. And I just the fact of the matter is, I don't think we've seen a lot of films that talk about the experience of a single father. And that's why this was special too, for me to make. And I wanted to celebrate that in a way. And if there was a single mom, no one would be saying, "Where's the dad?" So my feeling was, well, like if we make it on a single dad, like why would people say, "Where's the mom?" And then I was surprised at how many people after the short were like, "Where's the mom? Where's the mom?" And how it kept kind of coming up. And I remember saying to Pedro when we started the feature, just so you know, this is going to come up. People are going to be asking this. I was like, so I want to be respectful of your boundary. I was like, but I'm going to ask you a question. This was like leading into the interview where she's 11. I was like, I'm not putting it on a child. I was like, I'm going to ask you about, what is your parental situation? And you can say what you want and you can leave it at that. And that's in our film. He says, I am a single parent, but she's cool with her mom, whatever. And then as time went on and I got to know them more and we built that trust, um, I think it's when we're at the Chicago Humanities Festival. There's a woman and we're filming and she asks Jess a question. You've said a lot about your dad. What about your mom? And I don't remember the answer that Jess gave on stage, but afterwards I asked her how it made her feel. No camera. And we had a conversation about it. And I asked her, I was like, do you want to say something about this? And she did. And that's also in our film. But it took a very long time for us to kind of get to that point. Jess was very protective of her mom. She didn't want people judging her mom. She loves her mom. And I wanted to respect that while also understanding that an audience is gonna ask that question. And so I wanted to give them the chance to answer it. And that's that's what we did. At the end of the day, for me, I don't really find it relevant. To me, this is a film about a father and a daughter, a single father and a daughter. And so that's what my movie is about. The other relationships are there, just like her relationship with her little sister or her brother. It's present, but like we're not digging into those relationships because that's not really what our movie is about? So that was the decision that we made and kind of how it unfolded over time.
And I want to get to talk about you and not just this film. So I'm gonna try to end it and I will get back to, I'm sure we'll touch upon it real quick. But what was the audience response? I wonder if you're in like, I think I was in, if you've ever seen the movie From Dusk Till Dawn. It was a Robert Rodriguez movie, I think, with Quentin Tarantino. And you're thinking you're watching this movie, and then it completely shifts gears around the
Mm,
halfway point. You're like, "Whoa, this is about something else."
yeah.
Um, and you hear like an audible gasp in the crowd. I do wonder that moment where she pops up with a shaved head and it says 3 months later, and if you have any, you get what happens. You know what's gonna happen. What was the audience response like to that?
I think a lot of people don't know about brain cancer. Brain cancer is a very specific kind of cancer, and it's a very hard cancer. Um, I don't think in many ways people realize that she had what most doctors I think would call an unbeatable cancer, unfortunately. And so I think when they first see it, there is that moment of shock or what's going on. There's a gasp or that kind of thing, but there's an assumption that this is going to be something she can beat.
Mm.
I have not. So, for reference, the film that you saw is the final film. When I premiered this at Atlanta, she was still with us. And
Oh, okay. That's
yeah, and
right.
when I
Okay. Yeah.
premiered at Big Sky, we premiered in 2023, which was a year and a half after her diagnosis when she'd been told she had less than a year. And it was so important to me that the movie come out while she was still with us. So we
Mm.
worked so hard to make sure that it would be something she saw and could give us feedback, and she loved it. She loved our movie. She loved getting pictures at every festival we went to. We did several education screenings where kids around the US wrote her personal letters about how she inspired them and how they reminded her that they can do hard things and tackle challenges. And that was so meaningful. And we are so grateful that we got to give her that experience, even though she was too sick to come to any of the festivals. And so when she passed in August of 2024, that was when we felt we have to sort of update our film and
Mm.
and really give it a proper ending and dedicate it to her, obviously. And so the bulk of that experience of showing people was hard because the film would end and they would assume that she had beaten it, and they would be like, where is she? How is she doing? And like I would be able to say that she was still with us. And what is amazing is that, she lived for 3 years past her diagnosis, which is
Mm,
so rare. That's like point like 5% of people who get this diagnosis make it that long. And for the bulk of it, she had good years. It wasn't all just like terrible. There were moments that weren't great, but then she would come back and it was like, this kid is a miracle. Like, how is she doing this? Um, but at the end, it's a difficult disease. It robs you of your ability to talk, of your ability to communicate, of your ability to see. And so it was important to me, I mean, that we honor her in a way that she kept her dignity, that we would get to remember her the way that I think she wanted to be remembered. And then your question was about audiences. So I haven't seen this version with audiences, but we did a lot of education screenings and we showed
mm,
this to kids from fifth grade to seniors in high school. And that moment of the shaved head plays very differently depending on if you're with adults or kids.
mm,
When it, I remember distinctly, uh, I think we were in Nashville and I was sitting in the back because I was so curious how a group of students was going to respond to it. Terrifying experience because kids are very honest.
yeah.
But I was amazed at how, taken with the film they were. And I just remember hearing a little voice when her head was shaved. It was like, what happened? And oh, I mean, it broke my heart. Was that was like one of the few moments where I was like, oh wow, like they were so invested and that innocence of what happened. I almost wanted to be like, stop the movie, don't like let them know. But I mean, part of why I do feel this is an important movie for families in some ways is that kids are so much smarter than we give them credit for. They experience loss, they experience death. It may not be, God forbid, with a sibling, but it may be with a grandparent or a parent. And it's important that they feel it's okay to talk about these things. And we don't, in some ways, try to protect them too much because this is stuff that they go through. And yeah, I got a lot of kind of kids coming up to me telling me about like their grandparent or the experience that they had with illness, and it confirmed to me that this is a meaningful movie, and the shaved head is an important moment in understanding how one event and how illness can affect the trajectory of a life.
It's you know, there's so many things running through me right now because of the fact you're like, as a parent, you feel a certain way because, as I said earlier, this is about the like Pedro's embodying a parent's dream, and then it shifts to a parent's nightmare.
Hmm.
Um, and seeing that, I can't tell you what it would have been like if I saw this movie 3 years ago. I don't know.
Hmm.
I don't know if I know my response wouldn't be the way it is now.
Yeah.
I'm a fan of fighting. I'm a fan of boxing. I got a
Mm.
Mike Tyson picture on my wall. I'm from the Northeast. I'm a New York Mets fan. My father was born in New York and raised in New Jersey. So seeing these folks from New Jersey and the way they talked is like, I know them, right? I have hung out with them. And for this to be a film about fighters, it truly embodied that. And her attitude, his attitude, the brother's attitude was just, you're like, wow, wow. Because you're sitting there going, I would have been a mess, but
Yeah.
and you're just yeah, and you're just like they're a wonderful family, and so I can just simply say this to you, Emily. Thank you for this movie. Because of this movie, I hugged my kid a little harder and held
Good.
on to him a little tighter. It made me cry in camera numerous times today. So I want to get to know you with this last little bit of time we got and see what you're up to these days.
Yeah, I wanted
Um,
to say something though. Like I mean, I appreciate how emotional the film made you, and it makes me emotional too. But I still don't think we made a sad film, and that is a testament to Jessalyn. I don't want to minimize her spirit because even in the face of this, I mean, part of why it's we cry is because she is so inspiring and it's so unfair.
Yeah.
And I just want to say to people listening, like the majority of our film is like not, it is not about, we did not make a cancer film. We made a film about a remarkable young woman. And so please go see it and remember her and her spirit and take that bravery away. I think every time I am now faced with something hard, I literally say, what would Jessalyn do?
Yeah,
How would
yeah.
she handle this? How would she talk to me about this? Even when I'm crying over her, I can hear her being like, get it together, Emily. Like, have fun, like, embrace every day and live every day to the fullest and have that appreciation for life. And that is the takeaway I hope people have from our film. And then as far as what I'm up to today, I just came from the Big Sky Film Festival where I have a new short film, which is a very different film. It's a short about a grandmother who finds an audience live streaming herself doing jigsaw puzzles on Twitch. And the film is a little bit about community and loneliness and the importance of connection. But it's a lot of fun and it's 6 minutes and hopefully we'll be down south at some point. But yeah,
Well, I do have to, I really, that's fantastic. I'm glad you're busy. I'm glad I am excited to hear and watch your next project. I am a fan of you. Um, and let me also say this. Yes, by own, I'm just excreting emotion right now, and I understand that because of the fact I'm talking to you.
yeah.
And the reason it's funny is because I was trying to talk to my wife about it last night, and I want her to see it, but I also don't. But I do want her to see it. I want to watch it with her. And one thing I kept saying, I go, it was so inspirational.
Mm-hmm.
It was so inspirational because you're kind of you're watching this little Creed
Mm-hmm.
grow up. And we're
Yeah.
like, here we go, man. And it's awesome because of the fact it's about a young girl and hearing the father, and the one thing you're watching, you're getting kind of annoyed because the father's annoyed is like, there's not enough people in the seats here. There should be
Yeah.
more people here because of the lack of popularity of the female aspect of that sport.
Mm-hmm.
So I, and obviously since then I think popularity in women's combat sports is gone through the roof.
Definitely.
So so I will be sending when and we'll touch upon like if how people can see it if we choose so because I want to send this to people. I
Yeah.
want to send
Which
this
is
to
great.
fathers. Yeah, you
Love
do.
that.
Well, of course it is. That's the best thing that
Yeah.
you want people to be like, I gotta tell everybody about my film. I mean, that's the one thing. And when I keep saying that like this movie's in the front of my head, it God, I can't. This is why I'm in this world. I think this is why you're in this world because somewhere inside of you is a film you saw that made you just go, oh, it's just I will never forget it. I will never and I'm so and I'm honored. I'm honored to be talking to you.
Thank you.
Um, no worries because I'm gonna brag about it. I'm gonna say, yeah, watch this movie. Yeah, I talked to her. So there you go.
Thank
But
you. I appreciate that. Yeah, we'll
no,
be so we're starting our theatrical release and we're doing a screening in Atlanta in 7 days. And it
where?
is we're going to be at the Spring Cinema Tap House. Please bring your wife. Come. Every ticket is going towards the fund. We're trying to raise $20,000 to make a fund in partnership with curechildhoodcancer.org/Jessalyn to make a fund in her memory. And all of the proceeds are going to go to raising research funds for DIPG, the type of cancer that she had, and supporting families who are currently in the middle of their battle with DIPG. So we have partnered with this charity, and this was, when I told you about that moment I had where I said to Jesselyn, this is no longer about you going to the Olympics. this fund is what she would have wanted. This is what she wanted. She wanted people to know about brain cancer awareness, have empathy for all the kids that were going through this, and to give people hope. They always talked about how they're going to be a light in a dark situation. And we are continuing the work that she started. So that is kicking off our theatrical run. If you see our film elsewhere, but you still want to donate, again, it's curechildhoodcancer.org/JessZilla, where you can make a tax-deductible donation to the charity Cure, which is an Atlanta-based charity. They do great work, specifically all childhood cancer with families. Great organization. And then we are hoping to have our VOD release. I think it's sometime in May we're tracking for, but you'll have to look out for that. You can follow us on our socials. We really just use the Instagram, which is at JessZilla, the film. Hold on, actually, I have to confirm that. I should know
Oh,
that
yeah.
by now. Uh, yes, JessZilla, the film. I've
Okay.
been, I'm like, yeah. So if you
No, you're good.
I'll re-record it for you so you can just do a little edit. We're tracking a VOD release in May. And so if you follow us at JessZilla the film on Instagram, we're going to be putting all of the updates we have, any theatrical screenings, and then also the VOD release and where you'll be able to watch. And at that point, you'll obviously be able to share with everyone because it will be on video on demand.
Oh, I can't wait. Can't wait. And um, unfortunately, this video probably won't come out before 7 days from now. So, but I'm glad that you did tell us how we can contribute, and in a couple of months, it's going to be in my queue. I can't wait. Um,
Also, one more thing. Something that like if you don't have the means to donate to cure or curechildhoodcancer.org/Jessilla, if you don't have the means to contribute, if you love our film, rate us on Letterboxd, give us 5 stars, like start telling people about it, follow us, engage with us on social. All of that is free to do and really helps our reach. It's important to note we're small. I made this with like 3 people, and then we have these distributors we've been working with, but it is a small team. This is not Netflix. Like we do not have an army of marketers or money behind us. Like it has really been a labor of love. I joke that we pushed the boulder uphill. So it means a lot when we're able to talk to people like you, when the Atlanta Film Society shows its support, and we get program places when we have a theatrical screening and people go and we get that feedback. That is really, really meaningful for us and for Pedro. So please let us know. And you can always, comment, like, subscribe kind of thing. It really does make a difference for a small team like us.
well, I am shocked to hear there were only 3 people involved. It is a beautiful film. I mean, visually it is beautifully shot. It's well edited. It sounds amazing. You could never tell that you had 3 people working on this film.
I joke it was more than 3 people, but it was like I'm just saying when I say 3 people, it's like me, my producer Ben, and my editor Katie,
Yeah,
and then cinematographer Paul Yee, and additional cinematography with Kyle Dietz, Brendan Banks, a few other people who would like lend their talent. But like this is what I mean. Like it was like I say friends in the family kind of thing. And then in post, Pietro Milanese gave us our beautiful score. But this is like we're talking about people I can name on kind of like my hands, not like
yeah, yeah, yeah,
80 crew members and
yeah.
10 EPs. Like we don't have that.
And it shows you, and you know what, and that leads to this. And before we go, because don't want to take any more of your time, because you've been more than generous. I always ask this of who I interview. What is a piece of advice that you would give to any aspiring filmmaker? Because I think in a roundabout way, you just kind of said it. You're like, just grab some people and do it. But what would you? Well, you heard my question. What would you do? What would you suggest to anybody? What would you tell you right now if you were 21 years old?
I would tell me that there's a very good chance that you will not make money making a documentary and that you do it because you feel like you can't walk away. And so if you are ever lucky enough to find that thing that you can't walk away from, do everything you can to get it done and do it in a way that is safe for you too. As in, like, don't go into debt over it. When I started, digital was just becoming a thing. Now you have iPhones. I see people make stuff with their iPhone and it's pretty darn good. And if that's what you have and that's what you can use to make a film and not go into debt, and that you feel that thing, then that's how you do it. I think that's a really important thing, is to be measured about what you're doing and why you're doing it. And then the other thing I would say is filmmaking, like anything, is a craft. You need to practice. And so, to the point of, you should not be going into debt over one movie. Learn how to make things small that you can afford, and see it almost like a hobby that you would put time and energy and effort into, and continue to hone that skill. So that way, when you do find the thing that you can't walk away from, you have all of those years of practice.
That's a great piece of advice. I talked to a filmmaker a couple of days ago at one of our events, and we were talking about how I think I brought up how Quentin Tarantino's first movie never saw the light of day because of the fact
Mhm.
he's just like, this sucks. And he goes, that was the best film school I could have ever have gotten.
Yeah.
And it's just something like that. So and if I'm a writer, and I've one of the best pieces of advices I've ever got from other writers is give yourself permission to write badly.
Yes.
um, we are folks, every first swing ain't going to be a home run. All right, which is,
Mhm.
I mean, that's not reality. That's you playing a video game on the easiest level,
Yeah.
right?
And I will say, this is my first feature. And so people are like, oh, your first feature, your first feature. It's like, yeah, but I have been doing this for 20 years. Like, there's nothing in some ways first about this, other than the fact that this was the first time I felt that the subject matter needed the feature length time.
Well, that was it, and that's so funny because that was part of the conversation I had with the same filmmaker. Was like, sometimes there's so much meat on the bone
Hmm.
that you got to make a, and you go in there thinking it's going to be a short, and it's like, oh my God, or
Yeah.
there's not enough meat on the bone, and you go into a feature going, damn, there's like 20 minutes seriously
Yes.
that we're going to be working with here. But, and here's the big but. You're telling you had to tell this story. That was the
Hmm.
piece of advice you just gave. I
Yes.
had to tell this story because if I didn't, nobody was.
Yes.
And I did it, and oh my God, look what happened. Your life is forever changed because you chose to tell a story.
Yeah.
And think about that impact that a filmmaker and somebody watching this could have, is being like, I why hasn't anybody told this story? Because you haven't come along to tell it. So tell
Yeah.
it and see what happens. And yeah, and more than ever right now, by the way, folks, more than ever, we live in a world where the independent is these stories are gonna matter more and more. And you're seeing it come. And and I'm telling you, the young lady I'm speaking to today just blew my doors down. And I would have never have known about this movie, and I am so much happier in my life because I got to watch something like this. And this is, again, it just reaffirms why I love this medium so damn much. And not only thank you for that, thank you for letting me talk to you, thank you for letting me just realize how precious it is to be a father of a child and what that child could do to you. Oh God, thank you. Just
Of
thank you.
course. Thank you for having me, and, savor every minute of it. I know Pedro would say that, like, his big thing, and I think this is so amazing, and we can end with this, is just, as hard as it's been, I know he can look back and have no regrets in many ways, because he was there and he was the kind of parent that he wanted to be, for her and her siblings. And so I think that's a beautiful, beautiful gift that he was able to give her and she was able to give him.
and they were able, through you, to give to us. Bravo. Bravo. Um, so on that, this has been another episode of Atlanta Film Festival Alumni Spotlight with me, Keith Hannigan. You can follow us on Instagram, TikTok if you didn't delete it, because I deleted my TikTok. Now I can't get it back. But you can follow us on Instagram, Twitter, or X, Facebook, and TikTok. Just look up the Atlanta Film Festival. You can look up the Atlanta Film Society on Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, and TikTok as well. And if you're a filmmaker who has seen this before and you have worked with the Atlanta Film Festival, you're an alumni, and you would love to take part in one of these, we'd love to have you. Just email me at keith@atlantafilmfestival.com. And on that note, Emily, is there anything else you would like to share or say before I say goodbye?
I think that's it. Just encourage people to follow us again at Jessel the Film on Instagram. And I don't really use Instagram, but I'm at Emily Sheskin, and I do occasionally check my DMs. So if there is something you want to say to me, you can message me there, and I'll eventually, hopefully, see it. Thank you again.
Beautiful. Thank you. All right, folks. Thank you. Until next time, we'll see you again.